We are happy to have with us as a partner in this conference, UNESCO. Dr. Irina Bokova, Director General of UNESCO, could not be with us today. She has, however, sent a message for the conference. Dr. A. Parashuraman, Director, UNESCO, New Delhi, will pronounce the message on behalf of the DG. Mr. Parashuraman is also the UNESCO representative to India, Bhutan, Maldives, and Sri Lanka, in addition to being Director, UNESCO.
Your Excellency, Dr. Srimati Kamalaji, Governor of Gujarat, His Excellency Mr. Ruud Lubbers, Earth Charter Commissioner and former Prime Minister of Netherlands, Ms. Miriam Vilela, Executive Director, Earth Charter International, my friend Sri Amit Kare, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Human Resource Development, Mr. Kartikeya Sarabhai, Director CE, Mr. Steve Rockefeller, Chair of the Earth Charter International Council, distinguished colleagues from the UN, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. As you just heard, the Director General of UNESCO, Mrs. Irina Bokova, due to prior commitment, could not be with us on this very specious occasion. She has asked me to represent her and deliver a message on behalf of UNESCO. And I have this pleasant duty of delivering that message before making a very brief statement myself. Message from Mrs. Irina Bokova, Director General of UNESCO, on the occasion of the International Conference to celebrate 10 years of Earth Charter. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of UNESCO's Director General, Mrs. Irina Bokova, I'm honored to be in Ahmedabad today to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Earth Charter, a civil society initiative that has won widespread international recognition and support. Allow me to thank you, Ms. Miriam Vilela, Executive Director of Earth Charter International, and Mr. Kartikeya Sarabhai, Director of the Center for Environmental Education, for this kind invitation. This conference is symbolic for several reasons. First, it is being held in Ahmedabad, where UNESCO, in collaboration with the Government of India, organized the 4th International Conference on Environmental Education in November 2007. The Ahmedabad Declaration affirms that through education, human lifestyles can be achieved that support ecological integrity, economic and social justice, sustainable livelihoods, and respect for all life, end of quote. Second, this conference is co-hosted by the Center for Environmental Education, which has played such a pioneering role in translating the principles of education for sustainable development into school curricula, learning materials, and a whole gamut of awareness-raising initiatives. Third, the Earth Charter's 10th birthday coincides with the midpoint of the United Nations Decade of Education for Sustainable Development, to which India has shown such steadfast commitment. And we also heard a lot from Mr. Amit Kare on this. Education for sustainable development is born out of a very simple idea. Reaching sustainability will require more than legal frameworks, financial resources, and green technologies. It also needs to change the way we think, change that can best be obtained through education. The overall aim of Decade, launched in 2003, for which UNESCO is the lead agency, is to integrate the values inherent in sustainable development into all aspects of learning to encourage changes in behavior that allow for a more sustainable and just society. What are these values? How can they take seed and grow in learners? How can we nurture a sense of global ethics and shared responsibility to steer our planet towards a more sustainable future? The Earth Charter, the product of a worldwide cross-cultural dialogue on common goals and shared values, offers an ethical roadmap for answering these questions. On several occasions, UNESCO's governing bodies have reiterated the relevance of the Earth Charter to the organization's work. In 2003, our General Conference endorsed the Charter as an important framework for sustainable development and a valuable teaching tool. We are making active use of the Charter as an educational instrument for reorienting education curricula to advance understanding of shared global problems. In a collaborative effort, UNESCO and the Earth Charter put together a publication on good practices in education for sustainable development, which include case studies from countries across the world. We have worked together on a guidebook for teaching sustainable development and other educational materials. I am citing these examples because education for sustainable development calls for innovative practices, whether in terms of encouraging critical thinking, active learning, or empowering learners to take initiatives in their communities. I believe that education for sustainable development, ESD for short, has come of age. Countries are recognizing it as a foundation for building a more sustainable future. 5 years into the decade, much has been achieved, with many countries establishing national ESD coordination bodies and incorporating ESD into formal education. The UNESCO World Conference on Education for Sustainable Development, held in Bonn, Germany in 2009, attracted over 50 ministers and provided a lively forum to exchange ideas and best practices. The decade has spurred a critical rethinking about the relevance and purpose of education around the world. A growing number of teacher training institutions are integrating ESD principles into their education and training practices. At our recent executive board in October, numerous member states stressed the importance of education for sustainable development, for addressing global challenges, in particular climate change. Our initiative on climate change and education will help young people understand and address the impact of global warming today, while encouraging the changes in attitudes and behavior needed to place our world on a more sustainable development path. The initiative encompasses curricula, teacher training, and overall educational reform, in addition to enhancing non-formal education programs through media, networking, and partnership. As part of the current International Year of Biodiversity, we have emphasized education as a key for increasing awareness about the erosion of biodiversity and spreading knowledge of measures to better protect and manage it. We are actively involved in preparations for the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, Rio+20, taking place next March. The importance of education for sustainable development will be one of the main themes that UNESCO will promote at this milestone event. The transition towards green economies requires science, technology, and innovation, political resolve, and civic responsibility. But the starting point for building more resilient and sustainable societies is a deep understanding of our interdependence with each other and with our environment, and of the consequences that our actions carry for present and future generations. Such an awareness can only lead to actions that strive to protect and preserve our planet. As I have said, much has been achieved, but we are only at the beginning of efforts to reorient education systems in ways that promote equity, innovation, and sustainable development. Our strategy for the second half of the United Nations Decade for Sustainable Development is focusing on 4 key areas of strategic actions. First, enhancing synergies with different educational and development initiatives. Second, developing and strengthening capacities for education for sustainable development. Third, building, sharing, and applying knowledge related to education for sustainable development. Fourth, increasing advocacy and awareness on the importance of sustainability. Through these actions, UNESCO will strive to stimulate fresh initiatives, promote new forms of cooperation, boost the spread of good practices, and enhance partnerships to better mobilize and engage with key stakeholders. So you see that this strategy allows for many opportunities to further our collaboration and make education transformative. The challenge is to keep the momentum of the decade alive and to translate commitments into tangible actions and results at the national level. Strong partnerships at all levels are one of the key to success of the decade. Earth Charter International and the Center for Environmental Education are essential partners in putting this strategy into practice through capacity building and outreach, through education, information, and communication actions. I am very pleased that UNESCO and the Center for Environmental Education have proposed to work together in the Paryavaran Mitra project, the largest sustainability and climate change education program in the world, which was launched recently. The program aims to create a nationwide network of young people who have the knowledge, awareness, and commitment to meet the new challenges of global citizenship and climate change. Global crises raise challenges that cannot be resolved by any single country. It is up to every one of us to bind the community of humanity together through education, communication, cooperation, and dialogue. The new humanism which I'm advocating calls for ensuring quality education, achieving gender equality, understanding and anticipating the consequences of climate change, and protecting biodiversity along with cultural diversity. The Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace and Sustainable Development, to be inaugurated in India in the near future, will, I am sure, encourage creative thinking and tangible actions regionally and worldwide in this direction, and work in very close partnership with Earth Charter International and the Center for Environmental Education. To quote one of the greatest sages of all times, Mahatma Gandhi, "We must all be the change we want to see in the world." End of quote. I can think of no better way to express the essence of education for sustainable development, a responsibility of citizens, societies, and governments. Ecological consciousness begins at home if humankind is to create a sustainable common future. I wish you a very successful meeting. Thank you for your attention. Irina Bokova, Director General of UNESCO. Having delivered such a comprehensive message from the DG, I will therefore be very brief in my own intervention. I would like to take this opportunity, and I'm sure all of you will join me in paying a special tribute to Mr. Kartikeya Sarabhai for your vision to first of all, to think of the Center for Environmental Education. That was a vision, and I understand the government of India provided full support to you in establishing this center here, and we all know the remarkable contribution this center has made in India but also in the world. And this conference itself is an example of how you've been able to rally the whole world, in fact, in what you are doing for the promotion of environmental education. So I just want, I think, and also for organizing this particular conference with the Earth Charter International, with the full support of the Ministry of Human Resource Development, and also with all the UN partners, but so many other partners who have joined you in organizing this conference. I'm sure we are all looking forward to a very successful conference, a conference that will bring forward some concrete new proposals, recommendations that can help us to move forward and continue on this long march to ensure that we have an Earth that all of us can be proud of for ourselves, for the present generation, but also for our children and for all future generations. Thank you very much for your kind attention.